Она такая музыка, именно что
Да.
притягивающая, привязывающая тебя к истокам. Кстати, она намного лучше, чем вот эти брынканье по пианино было. То, что
Конечно.
please, please take your seats and make sure that you put your cell phones on mute, on silent mode, or turn them off. We're just about to start in a few moments.
Ну, а разница между, я подумал о традициях, да, о желании народа, чтобы его не трогали, чтобы он оставался в своей традиции. И это то, что я слышу в музыке нашей. Но также есть...
Абсолютно отсутствие агрессии, абсолютно
Да,
отсутствие какого-то такого враждебности. Микрофон. Переключите. Да, включайте, когда там уже пойдет.
когда работаем.
Абсолютно отсутствует агрессии.
Да. Ну, нормально. Мы про музыку говорили. Да.
Мы музыку обсуждаем.
Я уж даже сомневался, о чем я говорил.
Людей пугает само слово, даже
Да.
независимо от контекста.
Ладно, начинаем. Dear foreign participants, dear media representatives, we would like to welcome you at the UNEC Economic Forum, Path to Victory, dedicated to the 30th anniversary of the restoration of independence of the Republic of Azerbaijan. Now we would like to honor the dear memory of fallen heroes with 1 minute silence. May they rest in peace, and God bless their souls. They are the martyrs. So this is the last station. This is the last stage and the milestone of the UNEC Economic Forum Baku 2021. And we are following up from the great victory, national war victory. Now, this is the specific topic, which is the great return to Karabakh, sustainable settlement and economic reintegration. Now I would like to introduce the panelists. Moderator is Rahman Hajiyev, the chairman of the Karabakh Revival Fund, and also the Inam Karimov, Minister of Agriculture, Mukhtar Babayev, Minister of Environment, Natural Resources of the Republic of Azerbaijan, Mr. Jamal Yangin is the chairman of the board of ATEP, and Tabriz Amayev is the head of the agency of the renewables, or the state agency on the renewables. Well, first and foremost, I would like to welcome all the distinguished guests, the colleagues. I would like to congratulate you with this wonderful forum, and it is an honor for me to act as moderator. I'm very pleased to act as the moderator in this high-profile economic forum, and I will, as moderator, try to accommodate time for the distinguished panelists, distinguished speakers, and I will have also the short speech. As you know, this panel is about the great return, which by His Excellency, President, Head of State, signed Azerbaijan 2030 in the strategic paper and the strategic document, which represents key 5 national priorities. Azerbaijan 2030, it represents the goals, the strategic objectives and ambitions, so that to attain these goals, to achieve these objectives, I believe the entire Azerbaijani society and the participants and the diaspora, we need to have the synergy. I represent the Board of Karabakh Revival Foundation. I'm the chairman of the Board of Karabakh Revival Foundation. We as the foundation, we have been created based on the decree of His Excellency President. So we are the elements, of this great picture of the entire team, and we as the foundation working on the development of the strategy. The strategy is in the pipeline, and soon the board will have the strategy available. At least I see 2 persons from the supervisory board. This is Mr. Adalet Muradov and also the distinguished Mukhtar Babayev, Minister of Environment and Natural Resources. Of course, the great return needs to be sustainable. Great returns means sustainable return, and the future of Azerbaijan also has to be sustainable. And this is a headliner in the document that we have been developing. All the priorities, they all serve the purpose of the great return in terms of economic reintegration. And so this is a discipline which is very much interrelated to the other topics, and sustainability is the key motive, is the headliner. So based on the vision of the Karabakh Revival Foundation, sustainability is directly linked to the human capital, to the environment that we are living within, and to the principles of the good governance. You can see the diagram behind me, which represents the key priority directions, and this is ESG environment, which is the social governance principles. And luckily, fortunately, the colleagues attending this forum and the colleagues that deliver the speech and that are going to deliver the speeches, they are the profile experts, specifically Mukhtar Babayev. He is the person who can provide information in terms of the Karabakh, the future, green future of Karabakh, the environment of Karabakh, and also, I believe, Mr. Inam has extensive information in terms of the agricultural development. Smart village concept was developed directly by and with Minister of Agriculture, and Mr. Tabriz Amayev is going to talk about the green energy. Tabriz Amayev, the head of the State Agency for Renewable Energy Sources. And then I invite you all to participate in the Q&A session. So with this sequence, with the permission of the panelists, I will invite them one by one. So first, I would like to invite His Excellency Minister of Agriculture of the Republic of Azerbaijan, Inam Karimov. Thank you, Mr. Ajiyev. I have the honor and privilege. I'm very pleased to join you in this high-profile economic forum, and I would like to express my gratitude, led by Mr. Adalet Muradov, to the entire UNEC team and everyone who contributed to the arrangements of the economic forum. So I'm very pleased to welcome you all at the UNEC Economic Forum. In vast majority of the countries, we see transition towards the innovative economic management as the priority task announced by the nations. In the modern times, innovative-based national economies. The creation of these economies and development is strategically very important for all the nations. This topic is very much on agenda, which is linked to the socio-economic development models based on the digital transformation, and the international forums and international events are being organized to that end. So in the given conditions, the latest economic social challenges and opportunities, I believe, is the high momentum for the discussion of them. So the head of state, Ilham Aliyev, based on the new economic situation, based on this wise policy, we have stepped into the new era of the economic relations. One of the key priority directions of the economy is the agriculture, with some very significant reforms. At the moderate stage of these reforms, we see the high added value generation in the field of agriculture. Distinguished and honorable participants, Commander-in-Chief, under the guidance and leadership of Commander-in-Chief, our glorious army liberated the occupied lands, which opened new horizons for the restoration and the redevelopment of the agriculture. And the Minister of Agriculture has set forth the significant tasks towards that end. The Karabakh region historically was one of the most advanced agricultural areas of Azerbaijan. In the liberated areas, the wheat growing, the grain production, tobacco production, and also the fruit and vegetable production, vine production, grape production were the priority areas in agriculture. And also in terms of animal husbandry and cattle farming, this region was the advanced region in Azerbaijan. However, in the last 3 decades, just like in every other field, the Armenian occupants they damaged the agriculture, not only the houses and the households and historical monuments, but also the grape lands, the crop lands, the grasslands, the graze lands, and the cattle farms. They were all destroyed and demolished, and also the soil and water resources of the country were exploited. And so in order to rebuild the area, we have undertaken the restoration activities to rebuild what was destroyed barbarously. And as head of state mentioned, in the occupied and the liberated lands, we're bringing life to these areas. In the liberated lands, for the future agricultural developments, we are undertaking the planning activities such as identification of the agricultural lands, crop lands, provision with the equipment and the machinery, and also the inventory of the cattle, inventory of the plants, and also the baseline studies and assessment of the sanitary and the phytosanitary situation. On the liberated Azerbaijani lands, we have also the spring and the autumn cultivation activities, planting and seeding activities. Within the pilot project launched this year in Kalbajar and in Lachin lowlands, we had the resettlement of the beekeeping and also the sheep raising farms, and these projects were extremely successful because we have the plant coverage and the feeding capacity, which creates fertile opportunities and conducive environment for the high-level production. With effective use of the summer pastures, we have the projects in the pipeline that will be continued next year. And for the next year, by the way, in these regions and also these territories, we are we have already commenced the preparatory activities for the resettlement to the summer pastures and the grazelands. As I previously mentioned, dear ladies and gentlemen, in the liberated areas, so vineyard and grain production, the cattle farming have the great capacity. So for the food security and for the food safety purposes, we are aiming to further boost these areas. Historically, the beekeeping and the cattle farming and also the horse raising is in the focus of our activities. And the economic infrastructure also will be rebuilt in the liberated areas. In the field of the animal husbandry, in terms of the animal origin products, in order to establish the export-oriented production of the animal origin products in Karabakh and then also in the parts of the eastern Zangezur areas, we are going to establish the animal disease-free production, where Ministry of Agriculture and the Azerbaijan Food Safety Agency after are joining the efforts in the given conditions at the area of the Fizuli district by creation of the quarantine stations. We will be able to have the identification of all the animals with due respect to the veterinary and also other requirements. The development of agriculture in Karabakh will have the positive effect on the development of the entire country. We will have the better production basis, and also in terms of the water reservoirs, 100,000 hectares of the land will be provided with irrigation opportunities. Currently, in the field of the sustainable development of the agricultural production, we are aiming on introduction of the smart agriculture and smart rural development concepts and the solutions in the liberated areas of Karabakh. We're aiming on the reestablishment of the agricultural practices based on the smart village principle. Currently, as you know, based on His Excellency President's instruction, in the Ağalı village of Zengilan, we have introduced the first pilot project on the smart village, and the smart village implies the smart agriculture, which is the merging of the smart agriculture with the smart urban planning. And we believe that soon we will have the first settlement activities in Ağalı village, in the smart Ağalı village of Zengilan. The smart farm that will be introduced within the smart village in Ağalı of Zengilan. This farm will be distinguished in terms of the economic efficiency, a couple of times more effective with its new solutions. And this concept will also be extended to the Devletyarlı village of Fizuli. We will have the second smart village, and the foundation of which was already laid, and the activities will be continued in this direction. In the liberated areas, in order to ensure the continuous settlement, all the production means and also the inputs, specifically agricultural extension services and also the agricultural technical support will be provided in this direction by the Minister of Agriculture. All of the necessary activities were carried out along with the settlement. We will make sure that they are conducted simultaneously. Dear event participants, Karabakh Economic Region will have a specific share in agricultural production, which has become a reality with a great return and also with the due care of His Excellency President, and we will strain all the efforts in this regard. The return process to Karabakh in terms of the mid-term and the long-term prospects in terms of development of all the necessary bases and the frameworks, I believe it is key to have such high-profile discussions. I wish every best to the work of the UNEC Economic Forum, and I also would like to thank all the participants and wish best regards and best of luck. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Karimov, for very interesting speech, full of interesting information. Now I would like to invite distinguished Mukhtar Babayev, Minister of Environment and Natural Resources of the Republic of Azerbaijan. Greetings, dear all distinguished forum participants, honorable guests, dear ladies and gentlemen. First and foremost, I would like to welcome all the participants. It is really the very good occasion to extend my gratitude to the UNEC for all the arrangements. It's been almost 3 decades that the Armenia, as the occupant, harmed significantly the environment and the wildlife and nature. The forests were burned, the rivers were contaminated, and the flora and fauna species, they were exterminated, and we had so many cases of misappropriation by Armenia. And His Excellency President, under the guidance and leadership of His Excellency President, Commander-in-Chief, last year we managed to deoccupy and to liberate the territories and to start the rebuilding of this region. So we are rebuilding our history, we are restoring our economy and all other spheres gradually on phase-by-phase basis, including the restoration of the forests, effective use of the natural resources, including the water resources, introduction of the monitoring systems and tracking systems. In order to ensure efficiency of the rebuilding activities, we need to have a solid scientific research and development basis. So to that extent, academic sector and also the R&D institutes, in order to use the capacities, it's key to establish cooperation with academia. So Karabakh region is very rich with the fossils, and until 1993 there were the studies and the surveys in the field of the fossils, and 167 useful fossils were identified, and 52 fields they were exploited, and they were literally robbed and plundered. So in the geological survey systems, using the innovations, applications, and the technical solutions open the wide opportunities. The strengthening of the mineral fossil spaces creates conducive opportunities to meet the local domestic demands, to enrich the mineral fossil spaces. That will be a very significant basis to enrich the mineral fossil bases, and also by having FDIs, by engaging the foreign direct investments and also by the public investments, we can create opportunities for the employment. And in the Kelbecer area, the gold mines, we started the geological survey activities in Kelbecer, just like in all other mines. So the studies, the surveys in terms of the production and also the exploitation, we have signed long-term agreements with the companies of Turkey, and the subject of these agreements is to restart the mining activities in the region. So effective use of the natural resources and use of the receipts for the revitalization of the economy will be key, which means the creation of new jobs and also the introduction of new enterprises to that sector and to that region. And also access to the water resources is very key for Azerbaijan. There are some very rare rivers, water reservoirs, and also the lakes are in this region. 40% of the water resources of Azerbaijan are located in the liberated areas. We have also the mineral, medicinal springs, and we are going to create the fitness and wellness centers, recreation centers, and the use of the thermal sources is also paramount importance. So availability of the abundant water resources will be used for the potable water purposes, for the irrigation purposes, and in order to identify the hydrological state of the rivers, we launched the survey activities with the necessary public control measures. As a result of the fact that these areas remained out of the control of the public control, it was not possible to track the changes. However, we regularly conduct monitorings to identify the contamination level of the rivers. So international accredited laboratories, based on examinations, particularly in the transportable rivers, identified the severe contamination, particularly in Okçuçay. There is a Gajaran copper molybden plant and also molybden plant in Gafan in Gajaran, and also the domestic waste is being continuously dumped into this river, which leads to the degradation of the environmental system at the Azerbaijani territory. Okçuçay being continuously contaminated at the Armenian territory, also a negative effect at the drinking water reserves. We already communicated repeatedly to international agencies on the contamination of Okçuçay, and we made the appeals to take immediate actions, and we are actively informing the international community. However, it is very unfortunate that despite all the fair appeals, Okçuçay is still being contaminated by Armenia. To prevent the contamination of Okçuçay, we have the evidence-based intervention measures and the rehabilitation program, and we created the task force comprised of the high-level, international level expertise, and we need the support to that extent. Because of the halted operation of Sarsang water reservoir, we see the potential threat. The water of the water reservoir, the release of the water in the winter time can be detrimental for the residential places and also the communication places. In the dry water time, the stop of release of the water from this water reservoir created the risk of droughts for the croplands. So application of the integrated systems of the resource management will be useful in terms of the sustainable development and also in terms of the water security as one of the key prerogatives. The effective use of the water and the decrease of the losses and the reuse of the water is very key. In the modern times, the effective use of the water is something where we can employ the innovative technologies and also the digital transformation. So this is what we consider to use as the techniques. In the hydrometeorological survey stations, the surveys has been halted and infrastructure is fully out of order. So what we are going to do, we are going to rebuild the hydrometeorological surveys. We already procured 11 sets of the equipment, including the radar surveillance system. In the meantime, the complex also includes the special devices and equipment for the meteorological surveys and also the mobile stations. And also the radiological and the radioecological survey is also the goal, and it's been 9 months that we have been undertaking the monitorings to that purpose. So the climate changes, they do not recognize the boundaries and the borders. Not a single country is positioned and able to tackle all these climate emergencies. So the early detection of the climate emergencies and the identification of the risks help to prevent and to be better positioned to respond to those emergencies with adequate measures. So the early detection system, early alarm system, and creation of the regional platform is something that we consider. In the meantime, the effective transboundary water resource management, and also from perspectives of the ecological cooperation is key to ensure the sustainable use of water. So the creation of the regional cooperation platform is key, and also expansion of the forest is one of the key direction of our activities. During the occupation, 54,000 hectares of the forest have been destroyed by Armenia. So environmental, water protection, and the climate regulation, these are the features of the forest which are very key. In the liberated areas, we are considering to introduce the program for the extension of the forests. So on the 30,000 hectares, we are going to undertake the forestification activities. So having the large areas in Karabakh mined by the Armenians really impedes and hampers the restoration and rebuilding activities. The Ministry of Agriculture and Forests of Turkey, we have signed agreements on the cooperation. So nearby the Jabril city, the 40-hectare of the area will be used for seedling, and we are going to launch the friendship forest, the friendship wood in that area. All these activities will help to provide the jobs and employment in this area. One of the key issues is creation of the biologically diverse forest systems with a rare species of flora and fauna, and based on the modern applications and the modern solutions. I believe that will help to ensure that the entire region is transferred into the green area. 4 reserves and also the 2 shelters in terms of it will create the capacity for the development of the ecotourism, and the creation of the new national parks are considered by us. So we will have even larger capacity in terms of the national reserves and the shelters and the Basit Chai. In order to restore the activity of the Basit Chai, the state reserve, the state nursery, we have started the necessary activities in terms of the waste management, including the liberated areas in terms of the solid waste management based on the modern international standards, and the creation of the necessary infrastructure. And for the better coordination of the activities of the state agencies, we established the State Commission. And one of the key issues is to provide the collection and transportation and also the recycling of the waste and the waste management, to put it short, at all the stages to improve the environmental situation and also to manage and develop the area based on the higher standards in the liberated areas in terms of the meeting the engineering needs, and also we provided the photo satellite pictures and mapping of the 213 hectares of the lands. In the same time, in the GIS system, the water resources and the water enterprises and installations, they have been provided with the necessary maps through the satellites, and based on the decree of the president, the Karabakh Revival Foundation received specific tasks in terms of the elimination of the harm inflicted in the areas, harm inflicted to the environment. And the memorandum was signed to provide environmental balance and also to restore the natural environment, so that to contribute to the resettlement, return of the population, both, and also to have the promotion activities both domestically and internationally based on the decree of His Excellency Azerbaijan 2013 in the national priorities document. The great return and also the clean environment are the key strategical priorities for the next 10 years. Introduction of environmentally clean technologies and also use of the alternative and renewable energy sources and the restoration of the contaminated area are at the forefront of this strategy. During the restoration of these lands will help to transform Azerbaijan's beautiful part, the Karabakh, into the green area, and in the liberated areas, the creation of the green energy zones are identified in terms of the Glasgow COP26 net zero emission. Azerbaijan declared its will to have net zero emission, including agriculture, smart village, smart city concept, and creation of the green energy zones and restoration of the forests in the large areas. On the backdrop of the global climate change, creation of the green zones, I believe, will contribute to the green development of our country. In terms of the rebuilding and the revival activities, to increase the efficiency of the rebuilding activities, scientific and research activities is very important. We believe that it is important to have the cooperation with UNEC and also with other national and international educational facilities. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much, Minister Babayev. I am confident that in relation to the speeches and presentations of Minister Karimov and Minister Babayev, we will have interesting questions. I would like to make a small addition to what Minister Babayev mentioned, that we signed a memorandum of understanding between the Karabakh Revival Foundation and Minister of Environment and Natural Resources. And we were very happy to sign such MOU. I am hoping that soon, with the Minister of Agriculture, we will sign MOU. We as the foundation we remain ready to cooperate with all partners, with all society, and invite and encourage the distinguished guests to participate in our initiatives and projects. Soon we are going to have a similar project. The Karabakh Revival Foundation and the Ministry of Environment and Natural Resources, we will settle a forest. 35,000 seedlings will be planted, and we will have more of such kind of projects with seedlings with the yearlings planted. Now I would like to invite Mr. Jamal Yangın, Chairman of the Azerbaijan-Turkey Business Forum. The floor is yours, Mr. Jamal Yangın, Chairman of the Board of the Azerbaijan-Turkey Business Union. Distinguished ministers, distinguished moderator, honorable rector, it's been 10 days since I received the invitation. I studied, I examined, I explored the various parts of the Karabakh information in terms of what could the business environment and business community can do for the great return. I developed a large presentation. However, what I saw, the speakers and the panelists are very much relying upon the slides, on the technical presentation. But what I'm trying to say, dear entrepreneurs, Karabakh is now back. So what we are going to do in Karabakh, it's now back, our part of our motherland. Of course, we pray and we honor the memory of the fallen heroes. The strong leader of Azerbaijan, His Excellency President Aliyev, as a result of this glorious and this great battle, we gained our motherland territories. For 30 years at the civil diplomacy, we have been communicating this to the world, saying that these are the historic Azerbaijani lands recognized by the Security Council of UN, by the UN resolutions of the Security Council. And as a result of 44 days of the national patriotic war, we rescued our lands without capturing anyone else's 1 centimeter of anyone else's territory, without occupying someone else's territory. So now it's the time for landscape development. It's time for the rebuilding, and it's time for the revival. So the ministers, they, I believe, provided expressively the information in terms of what there used to be in Karabakh and what happened to Karabakh and what we are going to do. We are inviting investors. As the minister expressed, this is going to be the free economic zone with congress centers, with think tanks, and we're going to show to the world, how Karabakh actually is evolved and developed. It's been 2 years ago when the business union made a decision on the introduction of the industry park. And this idea was seconded and enforced, and at the end, with the endorsement in Audam, we started the creation of the industry park. So as a businessman, I have been watching closely for the last 3 days this economic forum, and I made great lessons, and I believe all the attendees, they also made lessons, including rector of the UNEC, Mr. Adalet Muradov. I would like to thank him, because for the entrepreneurs, for the business community, it's key. And I know that he also follows our developments, the developments in the business sector. Is there something that is going to be built in Karabakh? One of the very first responsible persons will be Mr. Adalet Muradov, because he's an economist and he provides good insights, and I'm very much happy to be his student. Now again, in terms of my activities, I have long list of the notes, and I'm going to propose establishment of the education and training center, and we're working on this idea. The concept of the education and training center is something which is being underestimated, and this is vocational schools. Yes, vocational schools which are being underestimated. So what we can do with this, we can actually step on the pillars, we can create the pillars. No one actually became a professor in a blink of an eye. No one became successful over the night. So it takes time, it takes the sweat of your eyebrow, and we are still striving. So entrepreneurs need to be enthusiastic, they need to be dedicated and determined, and we never felt ourselves as aliens in Azerbaijan, because this is our fatherland, and serving fatherland, it is the matter of honor, it's the matter of really compassion for the fatherland. There is a Davos in Switzerland, and twice a year they come together in Davos, and it's being in the focus of the world. But not everyone knows the Davos city. However, we know all very well the Davos Congress, and there are some significant economic decisions are being made. And so I hope the Karabakh also will be the same kind of the Congress Center. And this is what we are aiming to build in Karabakh. Dear ministers, what you have shared with us, with the business community, is very exciting. However, for the execution, for the implementation of all these ideas, I believe there is something that we need to adjust, that we need to put into effect. Economic incentives, I believe, need to be there in order to actually bring the investors and the companies. So some facilitation, the economic facilitation, the investment facilitation measures must be introduced. This doesn't mean that the companies will use the support provided by the government, that they are going to use the incentives by the government, provided by the government, for other purposes. No, every penny of the incentive provided by the government to the business community for the revival of the Karabakh will be used for the purpose to that end. I visited Karabakh, and I saw that the occupants, they spent nothing for the benefit of that land. They knew that they will become, and they will withdraw, and they will be pushed away, they will be thrown away from those lands, because they are invaders and the occupants, and they spent not a penny for the benefit of the area. And so it is the high time to rebuild and to restore this area and this region. So some global matters, some global issues were addressed throughout the 3 days of the economic forum, including the digitalization, including the banking, including the business activities. And however, our topic is sustainable development, and the entrepreneurs, in order to ensure the sustainable development, they have to be competitive. You cannot be successful with a protectionist policy. So all investments in the Karabakh will be open for the global competition. I know this, and I believe that it will be the case. So having that said, in terms of what happened before, what were the manufacturers and the plants before in Karabakh. So all this information has been explained and shared with us. And in terms of the international recognition, and even the Nobel Prize winner joined, Nobel Award laureate joined this event. And the moderator said something precious. He said, I never had the clash of opinion with the Nobel laureate. The George Held said, but we are not going to have the clash of opinions, but having the Nobel laureate people, up to here, this is really something that we have to pay tribute to Mr. Adalet Muradov. The Nobel laureates, their world is full of, the accomplishments and achievements, and we listened to their valuable ideas. And in terms of the specific implementation, I have a couple of wishes that I would like to share. The communication in Karabakh, and also in linking Zengezur with the Anatolia, will create an access for the great Turkey, with a great Turkic community and the economic union between the Turkic states. To this end, of course, I am talking as a businessman, as entrepreneur, in terms of transportation and the communication. So the motorway and the railroad transportation is key, because logistic developments, they represent 9 to 10% of the investments. However, with the Zangezur corridor, we will have the 6% as the cost. So almost it will be half less costly to have the railroad and the communication. So we have to express our gratitude to the heads of the states, because they are opening the horizons for us with better working conditions, including the master plan. We are waiting for the master plan, and this is what has been promised by all heads of state, that the master plan will be created soon. Although we appreciate that all the environment, all the surroundings are contaminated with the mines, and there have been a number of the communications that the people are desperate to travel to Karabakh, but it's not so easy. We have to be patient. We have to be well prepared. In the field of banking, as I globally expressed, that in terms of the accessibility of the funds, finances, investments, loans, in vast majority of the global banks, there is the available money, but there is a challenge in terms of the thorough and appropriate projects. The Karabakh region, economically speaking, we have not invaded and we have not occupied anyone else's land. So I attended the international forum, and they told me, Mr. Jamal, how can a foundation support the land under the military conflict? And I said that we were forced to call this the military operations, because the soldiers actually died, they passed away, but that was not the military operation for the occupation purposes. And when you invite the investors, you have to explain the amenities, and also you have to explain the possibilities, the conducive environment for that, because no one knows better than we do about our region, about our districts. So as a result of long preparation, now it's the high time to share my emotions with you. And for the last 3 days, I have been closely watching this forum, and it's been quite an experience. It's been quite a lesson, and I would like to salute all. I would like to extend my kudos to all of you. And we see very interactive conference, both in the conference hall and also through the platform. It's tough, to remain in the audience for 3 days continuously, but the key focus of this economic forum is Karabakh. That's why it's easy. So thank you for your attention. Thank you very much. distinguished Jamal Yangin, for your interesting speech. I believe you touched very important aspects, specifically transformation of Karabakh into the educational center, into the think tank, and we had numerous exchanges with Rector Muradov. Perhaps you know, in Ağdam, based on the master plan presented to His Excellency President, the creation of the new education quota is something considered, including the establishment of the Karabakh University. So it's going to be a reality. So the concept paper is going to be developed on the creation of the Karabakh University within the educational street block. And recently, if I'm not mistaken, that was back early September this year, in the Karabakh Economic Region, the special representative, based on the initiative of Emin Hüseyinov, with participation of our colleagues, we had the first scientific conference in Ağdam. Soon, we will have the publication based on the results of the first scientific conference, educational conference in Karabakh. So, having the opportunity, Mr. Jamal Yangin, I would like to put forward the initiative. In coming weeks, we will have our strategy disclosed, and there will be a special direction on the human capital, human development, so sustainable settlement. That means the development of the human skills, human capabilities, because the process of adaptation also falls within the area of new skills and new knowledge. So I would like to encourage the entrepreneurs to help the revival, Karabakh Revival Foundation, to carry out this mission. There is a high need for that. But since we are talking about the sustainable settlement and we're talking about the sustainable future, as Minister Babayev in his extensive speech mentioned, it will not be possible without the green energy sources. In Azerbaijan, in regard to the renewables, there is a special agency, state agency for renewable energy sources. We know that the Karabakh will transform into the green zone. And this is also very well reflected in the strategic paper, Azerbaijan 2030. So with no further ado, we would like to invite head of the State Agency for Renewable Energy Sources, our colleague Tabriz Ammayev, to talk about the green energy capacities in Karabakh. The floor is yours. Thank you, dear moderator. Thank you, Mr. Hajiev. I would like to join the previous speakers, and I would like to pay tribute and extend my kudos to all the organizers, to UNEC, and also to the rector of UNEC, and I wish that this forum will become a sustainable tradition. The previous speakers mentioned about the large rebuilding and also the restoration activities. And there is an energy component in all these activities, which is specifically the green energy component, introduction of the green energy component. So there is a strategy, a goal, as you know, early this year, at the meeting, His Excellency President dedicated to the results of the previous year, he shared the strategic vision and the strategic instructions on the green developments, and based on his instructions, the Ministry of Energy and also the State Agency on Renewable Energy Sources we started to explore the available international advanced experience, and also with the baseline studies in terms of the available capacities for the renewables. We identified the available capacities and with purpose of the green energy zone concept development. We use the TEPSCO as the consultancy agency, and upon the receival of the feedback from the relevant agencies, we presented the updated version to the government. This concept of green zones implies the use of the green energy, and together with a consultancy firm, we explore the available advanced practices with carbon neutral and also the green energy targets, and also the legislative and the regulatory framework, and also the business interventions in terms of the efficiency and effectiveness. And within that concept, we developed the concept paper on the green zone, which is the use of the renewables as maximum as possible for the power generation, and also having the environmentally friendly and ecologically clean value chain production, including the building the capacity for the renewables based on international experience. One of the cornerstones of the green zone is to have the high level of the renewable capacities, and also you know that the renewables, they have the changing effects based on the climate and also based on the time of the year. So to that extent, the liberated area of Azerbaijan, either in terms of the new context and also internationally, is very rare, where we have 3 to 5 types of renewables like hydro, solar, and also the sun and the wind energy opportunities. Can you please make sure that the slides are reflected on the screen so you can also track what I'm saying? And we are happy to know that we have high hydro, wind, and also the solar energy potential. Now, Minister Babayev already talked extensively in terms of the water reserves, and 40% of the domestic water resources provided by Tartar Çay, Hakkari Çay. And also the branch rivers, we have 40% of the domestic needs provided by this service. However, the small HPPs with full violation of all the economic norms have been constructed by the Armenian invaders, and at the moment we are working on the rebuilding of the HPPs. But before to talk about it, we have also the industry size HPP construction engineering activities. We have undergoing negotiations, including the Khudaferin and Kızılası 140 megawatt capacity HPP with 358 million electric hours, which will per year, which will provide 110 households with electricity over the year. And also, with purpose to provide the clean energy, we have launched a number of the projects, and they yielded the results. And upon the end of the military operations, Gulabert HPP was put into operation, and around 7,000 households now will be provided with the electricity based on the clean energy, based on the renewables. And a couple of months ago, Sugavushan 1 and Sugavushan 2 HPPs were relaunched, and at the moment in Kalbajar, we will have the Kalbajar small HPP commissioned. Now, talking about the hydro energy potential, this potential, together with other renewables, will provide more sustainable effects and let me particularly underline, we have also high solar energy capacity, and based on the initial and also the greenfield studies, the solar capacity of these areas is top second after the Nakhchivan Autonomous Republic in terms of the commercially feasible projects. The baseline studies show that we can have 7,200 megawatts of the solar energy in cumulative terms. 7,500 megawatts is the production, is the generation capacity of Azerbaijan, and in Karabakh we can have 7,200 megawatts, which is almost the same as the current level of the general production. So Gubadlı, Zengilan, Jabrail, Fizuli has the high solar energy capacity. In terms of the wind capacity, there are diversified type of the energy, and specifically in Lachin and Kelbejar, based on the first studies in the mountainous areas, it is 7 to 8 meters per second at the altitude of 20 meters above the sea level, and that is commercially viable with engagement of the foreign direct investors and investments. And in the meantime, a couple of months ago, with BP, we signed the implementation agreement for the 240 megawatt capacity in Jabrail, construction of the solar plant. And we're talking about the BP, the company BP. And based on international norms, that means 200 million USD for the investment, which is the sign in terms of the peace and also peaceful development opportunities. The fact that the BP invests so much money, and 500 million kilowatt hours of the electricity will be generated, and based on the average terms, that means 150,000, 160,000 households provided with the annual electricity needs. And at the moment, we are undertaking the feasibility studies. And allow me also mention that when we say green electricity zone, this is not only about meeting the electricity demands by the renewables, it is also about the other value chain components in terms of introduction of the energy efficiency techniques based on the energy supply scenario, and also based on the climate conditions. Various modalities can be used, like the solar collectors on the roof of the houses, or using the HPPs, hydropower plants, or using the solar panels for heating purposes, for electricity supply purposes, like promotion of use of the electric cars, electric vehicles can be piloted, for instance, in the public transportation, and then gradually in the private transportation as well. The street lighting, the roads and the motorway lighting, having the LED bulbs, LED lamps can also lead us towards the energy efficiency, energy saving, which is somewhat at the level of 40%. And by this, we can ensure sustainable use of the energy sources. Additionally, as we gradually restore economic operations, as we restore the agriculture, we can also use the waste, generated waste, for the electricity, for the power generation purposes. So the green zone, green energy zone, is not only about the efficiency of the energy, this is also about the employment and the economic activeness. So the demand that will be formed and shaped based on the portal theory will trigger the opportunities for the residential purposes and also for the production, like SME development for the solar panel development or the solar panel assembly or the maintenance activities. So that will positively affect the employment, and it will also boost the need and demand for the electric engineers and electric fitters and other professions. So that will also positively impact the restoration of the labor markets and employment. So we are planning to engage strongly the private sector in all these developments. So by engaging the private sector and through the projects that are aiming on the use of the renewable sources of energy for the production of power, we are going to closely work within the framework of the public-private partnership. And based on the approval of the concept, we will work on the development of the master plan. By the way, the master plan is something which is considered for every city in the liberated areas, with energy demands identified, and also including the environment, economy, and agriculture profiles, with use of the effective green technologies and also the digital transformation tools. And Minister Baba mentioned, in terms of the net zero emission, Azerbaijan declared its readiness to undertake this commitment. And in order to reach this goal, one of the key components is the green energy zone. And we believe the green energy zone, the effective use of the GEZ, green energy zone, will be instrumental in achieving the set goals. Of course, the carbon sequestration, carbon capturing technologies will also contribute to this end. So that's pretty much all, and thank you for your attention, and particularly dear speakers. It was a privilege and honor to co-share this panel with you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Amaev. So basically, we have exhausted all the speeches, all the speakers, all the panelists had the opportunity to share the presentations. Now it is question and answers. So please address your questions to the panelists and make sure you speak to the microphone. Greetings. Can you speak up, please? Stand close to the microphone. My name is Oruj Ibrahimov. I would like to thank the panelists. It was very nice. And Mr. Jamal Yangin, you had very expressive speech that was very strong, and I appreciate it. I made a note. Mr. Jamal Yangin, I attended all your events. Now, in terms of your participation, engagement in the developments in Karabakh, I would be very happy to note that ATBU has extensive projects in Karabakh. What are the considerations, what are the ideas that you're considering for your engagement in the revival of Karabakh? Can you ask questions one by one? Yes, sure. Did you ask about the people and the opportunities? No, I was wondering, what are the options that you are going to use in terms of the work of the ATBU in Karabakh? Okay, now I got your question. The union of the Azerbaijani and Turkish businessmen, we developed the extensive strategic program, knowing that we are going to return Karabakh, regain Karabakh. So whatever has been done previously in Karabakh during the the the Karabakh Azerbaijan history. So we need to make sure that we are well aligning the undertakings in Karabakh with the previous undertakings in previous years. For instance, in the Agdam Industrial Park, we prepared 17 firms, 17 companies, and we identified what was done previously in Karabakh. So first comes the leather industry, then comes the fruit industry, horticulture, and also the cattle farming. In Fizili, in Zengezur, we also have certain greenfield and brownfield ideas, but without master plan, it's really tough to make your mind in terms of the developments. However, I can tell you that we will need, to the large extent, we will need human resources. So, His Excellency President, his recommendations towards the investments in the human capital, and we really understand, we contemplate what he really meant, that there will be high need for the human resources. At the moment, we don't have the need for outsourcing the labor for our projects in Karabakh. So all the needs will be met by means of the domestic resources. My first question goes to Mr. Rahman in terms of the SMS for the Karabakh Revival Foundation. How actually do you measure the efficiency of the SMS? Are you going to share the information about the SMS support to the Revival Foundation? My second question is about the personnel of the Revival Foundation. So how many children of the martyrs are employed in the Karabakh Revival Foundation? I'm talking about the first Karabakh War children of the martyrs, because I am the son of martyr, and I applied based on the vacancy in your agency, but I failed to get a positive answer, and 80% of the attendees, they know well how professional I am, and I really want to work in this foundation, because it seems to me, unlike the other foundations, the employees of the Karabakh Revival Foundation should be those who are morally linked to Karabakh. Thank you. Now, first question about the SMS donations. Allow me to mention that currently we are employing various platforms for the promotion of the donation in terms of the advocacy and the promotion of donation. So through all the existing and digital platforms, you can donate to the Revival Foundation. You can do this through our official webpage, and also in all the applications of the leading banks, and also through SMS, you can donate to the Revival Foundation. However, the key challenge is to ensure that the mobile applications and SMS, so we are not the only donation that we do not accept is in cash. So for all other types of the donation, we are open. Donation is the culture, Donation is an integral part of the normal life. In UK, for instance, the maintenance and conservation and restoration of the museums are provided by means of donation, and also in United States, the veterans facilities are also maintained by means of the donations, and this is what we do currently in Azerbaijan. So the donations transferred through SMS are more in quantity. Thousands of people are using the SMS for the donation purposes. However, talking about the volumes, this is only a small share in the overall chunk of the donations, and the biggest part is by the businesses and the large companies and corporations. Now, talking about the second question, I'm not sure to what extent to discuss this question here and now, but I believe there is a high interest. So that's why I need to answer. First, we as the Karabakh Revival Foundation, there is a certain misperception in the society, amongst our the fellow countrymen. We are not the only entity that deals with the revival of Karabakh. The primary goal of establishment of the Karabakh Revival Foundation is to provide support to this large-scale activity, the revival of Karabakh. This is the institute. This is the financial institution. Let me put it this way. And the key purpose of our activity to have alternative source of funding apart from the state budget, and that is going to be our primary activity. We are not prioritizing or preferring to be engaged in implementation. On the contrary, we rather opt for the collective efforts, just like with the Ministry of Environment and Natural Resources. We signed MOU on implementation of the project in Zengilan. So our goal is to support, because we are not skilled in planting of the seedlings or in terms of taking care of the yearlings and seedlings. Now, based on what I have mentioned previously, the Karabakh Revival Foundation is not a large institution. We have only around 25 staff members, and we are not going to increase that number sharply. In our strategy, the ultimate number of the staff members is 50, so it will be below 50. So we need to be very careful in selection. We have to be very careful. Yes, there is the competition, and there is a high interest. Of course, I believe every country fellow man, every person, every citizen will share my view that anyone who sacrificed for Karabakh, for motherland, any martyr who sacrificed for Azerbaijan is the crown for this nation. This is something out of discussion. So what makes this land a sacred land is not what we say. That is the people who fell as the heroes to protect, to defend this land, to liberate, to deoccupy this land, and also to serve as the citizens for the prosperity of this nation. So this is out of question. Now, talking about the selection of the applicants, regardless of whose child you are, it needs to be meritocratic. It needs to be based on merits and based on abilities. Of course, if we have two equal persons, applicants, which are very similar to each other, we will prefer to hire a person who is linked to Karabakh in terms of the status. However, if we have the two applicants, eligible applicants, when one of them is much stronger in terms of the employment capacities and skills and knowledge, I will employ the first one with no doubt. So we never actually distinguish, the applicants who are applying for the job during the interviews or in terms of the shortlisting period. We never distinguish the people based on their place of origin. But in the Karabakh Revival Foundation, we have a lot of employees from Karabakh, of Karabakh origin, from the various districts of the Karabakh region. So the fact that they're employed in the Karabakh Revival Foundation is not just because they are of Karabakh origin. So again, I don't have information when did you apply. I believe we have not met before with you. So if you really are eager to work in the Revival Foundation, please apply again and I will get your name. We can meet, and if I see that your skills and knowledge is demanded in our foundation, perhaps we'll have a certain cooperation, but the basic principle is, regardless of your place of origin, the first principle is the meritocracy. So that's all. I guess I didn't invent a wheel by my statement, but there is no other option to answer your question. Thank you. Please introduce yourself and make sure that you have a specific question. Gülnar Nazim Kızı, a news agency. I have a question to the ministers. My first question is that in October, at one of the exhibitions, I received information that in the rivers on the liberated areas, there will be sensors that will measure the quality and the quantity dimensions every 10 minutes. So when are you going to have this launched? Because tender competition was supposed to be done by the end of November. So when do you think that these installations will be conducted, and in how many rivers, and whether you are going to install this measuring device in Okçuçay? My second question is about Shusha. What other trees apart from the pine trees will be planted in Shusha? Thank you. Perhaps I didn't catch the question entirely, but I believe the first part of the question was about the metering device installations and the installation of the hydrological stations. I know I have the information about the hydrological stations. So when the measuring devices will be installed, because the tender competition was supposed to be over by the end of October. Well, apologies. That is not a very easy process. We are talking about the large installations that will be imported to Azerbaijan. So I believe these devices will be installed by March, and once we will have the broadband internet, high-speed internet, we will have this data transfer. So that will depend on the customer, on the application. So you can have the opportunity to receive, the speedy data. So we have started the operations, but we are aiming to deliver by March. You wondered about Okçuçay. Yes, Okçuçay is also included into the installation of 11 measuring devices at the rivers, and we are talking about the quality monitoring and quality tracking and measurement devices. So Okçuçay will be also in the list, and we will have the online demonstration of the data. Did I answer your question? Yes, you did. My question goes to Minister Karimov. So, after and upon the resettlement of the population of farmers, what kind of assistance will be extended to the farmers in Karabakh? Because there are some farmers which are complaining about the products they cannot sell, and that's why my point about the assistance that you are going to introduce for the settlers in Karabakh, for the farmers in Karabakh. As you know, in all the areas, there is an extensive, ample subsidy program provided by the government, and the farmers in Karabakh will also use the ample subsidies that will be available for them. So from next year, I believe this process will start, and particularly in our village of Zangilan. And one of the advantages, key advantages, will be the smart village principle that the agricultural practices will be grounded upon, which implies the use of the cutting-edge technologies, which will boost and harness their productivity. In addition, one of the great assistance and support, I believe, is particularly for those that will practice agriculture, will be the extension services, agricultural extension services, consultation services. So the IDPs and refugees that will be resettled, so I guess they will need agricultural and rural development skills, because they have been living in the urban conditions. They were forced as they were expelled from their native land. So the Minister of Agriculture agencies will continuously provide necessary extension and assistance services on the field, on situ. Thank you. Last question, madam, please. Can you please speak up? We cannot hear you. I am Nermin Karimli. I represent Agricultural Innovation Center. Nermin Karimli, Agricultural Innovation Center, Agro Innovation Center. I would like to thank every speaker for insightful remarks and presentations. I have two specific questions. First question goes to Mr. Hajiev. We know that the Revival Foundation of Karabakh receives donations. So do you think that crowdfunding platform could be created for the agricultural purposes? I believe every Azerbaijani citizen will be eager to join the online business opportunities. Thank you very much. Interesting question indeed. Well, generally speaking, Revival Foundation of Karabakh is the crowdfunding, it's the platform, it's opportunity for the crowdfunding, but crowdfunding, you may call it, or you can call it fundraising or crowdfunding. In order to make it convenient and comfortable, for every person. This is our ultimate goal. So at the first stage, our goal was to use various platforms, just like our colleague raised this question about the SMS donations. So initially, we were exploring the opportunities of donation through various modalities. Now we're talking about, the next stage of the crowdfunding and agriculture for Azerbaijan and for Karabakh. For those who know, it was traditionally number one employment field, and will continue to be so, as it was mentioned previously. Now we are talking about the promotion of the new areas and also the conventional areas and also the contemporary areas. So I have no doubt that the Karabakh Revival Foundation will have joint projects with the Ministry of Agriculture. And partially that will be about the attraction of the new funding sources, new funds. We have all the necessary relevant opportunities, capacities, and we have the mandate by the legislation, and also the charter that we have also allows us to do so. The charter that was also signed and approved by His Excellency President. So we are interested to provide our support to other ministries to this end. So thank you for your question. I believe in near future we will be able to introduce such platforms to the society. Now, talking about the promotion of the agricultural activities, this is not limited to the crowdfunding. We have ample opportunities in the Revival Foundation of Karabakh, because this is the sovereign source of the funding. Of course, we have the supervisory board and we have also the governing board. And of course, we follow the decisions. In our decisions, we follow the corporate governance principles. But we are interested to provide support in all the fields, including the agriculture. I believe in near future we'll have interesting initiatives and undertakings, and we will openly disclose that information to the society. Thank you. Thank you. Next question. Your second question, and that will be the end. My question goes to Mr. Amayev. So, solar panels and creation of the smart croplands is something which is considered in the Vlakyarli village and also in the village in Zengilan. So I know that there are certain developments in your agency, and as a pilot project in Samukh district, in the smaller area, there are some developments to introduce this small cropland idea. So I would like to get your view, and also the Mr. Jamal Yangens. What do you think about the business feasibility of this project, of this idea? Well, either energy or the vacant lands, you need to put into the commercial feasibility. And solar energy as the renewable energy in the areas that you mentioned, there is a conducive environment for the commercial production. Energy is going to be one of the key challenges of nowadays. So you have to select competitive areas of the energy. You have to drift away and deviate from and away from the conventional energies, which are the CO2 type of the carbon energies, hydrocarbons and the other. So this is obviously in our plan for sure. Allow me to mention the agro-photovoltaic system, which is widely used internationally. We have the small pilot area project in terms of the agro-photovoltaic developments. So we have negotiations undergoing. One of the negatives of the solar energy projects is the availability or inavailability, let me put this way, of the large lands. So you need to have large land parcels for the solar energy production. So usually non-agricultural areas are selected, but sometimes, for agricultural development purposes, in the solar conducive areas where you have a lot of sunny days, you are you can review and consider this concept of using the solar panels for the agricultural developments and using, green technologies. I believe it is well matching towards the development and revival of the agriculture and revival of the liberated land specifically. An agricultural development implies the bioenergy, biomass energy production, and in terms of the agro-photovoltaic initiatives and use of the green technology is something that we consider for the new initiatives, and within the beneficial kind of beneficially useful projects we will apply this idea. Thank you for your questions. Distinguished forum participants, we have finished panel 5 discussions. Now we proceed with the awarding of the panelists. We invite the rector of the UNEC and the chairman of the forum, Adalet Murad. Rahman Ajiv, chairman of the board of Karabakh Revival Foundation, the moderator of the panel 5 of the UNEC Economic Forum, is awarded. Applauses, please. Minister of Agriculture of the Republic of Azerbaijan, İnan Kerimov. Minister of Environment and Natural Resources of the Republic of Azerbaijan, Mukhtar Babayev. Jamal Yangin, Chairman of the Board of the Union of Azerbaijan-Turkey Business Community. Tabriz Emmayev, head of the State Agency for Renewable Energy Sources. The group picture by the panelists together with the rector. So, join me in kudos to the speakers, to the panelists. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Dear participants, we completed the panel 5 of the forum. We'd like to thank to Rahman Ajiyev, to İnan Kerimov, to Mukhtar Babayev, to Jamal Yangin and Tabriz Emmayev, and dear participants, thank you for your participation and attendance. Thus, we have completed UNEC Economic Forum Path to Victory, dedicated to the 30th anniversary of the restoration of independence of the Republic of Azerbaijan. So this forum, organized by UNEC, is a unique platform for the research and for the collaborative developments and cooperation. We have a recognition and acknowledgement for the forums, for the organizers, and thank you for your attention. Мои поздравления.